Hello everyone, I'm Penny and today I'm going to be talking to Dr. James about how to prepare for a disaster. Now, disasters can strike at any time, and since we can't always determine when or where an emergency will happen, you and your family must be prepared. Dr. James, you have you definitely have had a personal experience with this lately, living in Dallas and with everything that's been going on. So can you share with us how you would prepare for an emergency? Like, what is an emergency plan?
So in order to prepare for a disaster, you really have to think about what are your essential needs to take care of you and your family. So unfortunately in Texas, we had a Arctic blast that has literally never been seen in the state for 100 years. We had -1 degree Fahrenheit, which is, I've lived on and off in Texas my whole life. It has never been that cold. In fact, I've never experienced temperatures that cold. So it was an absolute disaster. The electrical grid failed. Millions of people were without electricity and running water for almost a week, including my own home, and our office here in Dallas were without power and water for a week. So luckily, I am a prepper. And my wife used to make fun of me because I tend to be over-prepared and kind of prepare for the worst and hope for the best. But now she doesn't make fun of me anymore. And we have tons of supplies and things that I'm super excited to share with you today. So number one, first and foremost, is you have to have an adequate supply of water. You can go 27 days without food, but you can only go 3 days without water. So you have to have water to survive, and you can survive a lot longer with no food and water than no food and no water. So that's number one. So make sure you're buying some sort of bottled water. We had ample supply on hand because we didn't have any water, Penny, for 5 full days. I had no worries because my family had plenty of drinking water. Yeah, nothing. So we had plenty of drinking water. I like the BPA-free large 5-gallon bottles because you can store those easily, and the gallon jugs of water, they can leak. And we had some of those leak, so I don't recommend those, but see if you can get a big 5-gallon jug of BPA-free plastic to store inside for your water supply. We have lots of dried foods. So beans, rice, things that last for years. I take it to the next step. We have, and again, my wife used to make fun of me, but not anymore. I have what she calls astronaut food. So we have dehydrated food and buckets of them. I've got powdered eggs. We've got all kinds of stuff that you wouldn't normally eat, but just in case, in a disaster, an emergency, my family will eat, and we will eat well. I've got dehydrated meats, dehydrated foods with a 25-year shelf life. So, but again, you have to prepare for this stuff before it happens. You have to go out and buy it now. We've had a pandemic for the last year. That's another natural disaster and emergency that affected the supply chain, especially in the beginning, many countries, in order to get food and provisions to your home. So food and water are the most important to survive, okay? Secondly, you wanna make sure that your house is prepared or apartment is prepared for a natural disaster. In this case, freezing temperatures is something that we've never experienced before like this in Texas, at least in my lifetime. So I was grossly underprepared. I did not wrap our trees, our palm trees. They all died. We did not. You're supposed to take the hoses off of your faucets on the outside. Those all froze. You can open your cabinets underneath your sinks to get some airflow underneath there and wrap the U-pipe underneath your sinks. We didn't do any of that. So everything froze. We had no water. And unfortunately, our northern friends are saying this is common sense stuff. But for somebody from the South who's never experienced these frigid temperatures, we just don't know this stuff. So that's a way to protect your house and your pipes from freezing temperatures. But if you have something more severe like a tornado or a hurricane or something that can actually destroy your property, you need to have a place that you can remain safe. And that place is usually underneath the stairs, is the most secure and supported area of your house. So if you don't have a place that's underneath your stairs, you need to get away from doors and windows and go to the innermost part of your house to have shelter during a tornado, hurricane, or any type of storm that could cause catastrophic damage to your dwelling.
Thank you. Can I just ask, if you have never had temperatures like this, what are you collecting astronaut food for? What do you have in mind when you're preparing to that level?
Hey, it could be a nuclear apocalypse, a zombie apocalypse. I don't care. And look, we had a huge global pandemic. I've had this stuff for a decade. I've had this stuff forever. And look what happened. We've got plenty of food when the coronavirus hit. And that's the thing, like, you just don't know. You don't know when something catastrophic is going to happen. And it could be a virus, it could be a tornado, it could be an earthquake. But we're ready.
You definitely were. I understand your wife's giggles, but I'm sure she's so proud now.
Oh yeah, she loves it. I'm allowed to buy all of my prepping stuff now. You know, from a power standpoint, I highly recommend some sort of alternate source of power. Again, we lost power in Texas for a week. Some people had it on and off, some people didn't have it at all. So we have solar generators in our home. You can buy some and they can range from the more affordable at a couple $100s to power small devices like laptops and cell phones and tablets, to several $1,000s for systems that can actually serve as backup power for your home. So get something that fits your budget. But we have solar generators. I actually just bought another one, Penny, because the one that I had, I didn't realize that it could only power cell phones and laptops. So when we lost our power and I went to try and power some small appliances to, make some tea and a griddle for cooking, it didn't work. So again, whatever supplies that you have, you definitely want to test them before the emergency and make sure that they're functional and that they're working properly.
And you don't think about these things, especially when you mentioned the preparing by, looking after outside as well. All of that stuff wouldn't even enter your head in those kind of situations. Right. Would you say it's the same for an office, like a workplace? Is there anything different that you'd kind of bear in mind?
Yeah, if you own your workplace, your building, then I think you treat it just as you do your house. But most people probably work in an office building setting, whether it's a 1 or 2 story building, or in our case, a high rise with several stories. You definitely want to prepare for power outages, which is very hard, especially in the medical setting, because we have vaccines and testing supplies that have to be kept at certain temperatures. And it's very difficult to do that. So you have to depend on your building to either have a backup generator or some source of alternate power in case of an extended power grid outage. But that didn't happen here. So we actually, luckily, because it was so cold, our vaccines were okay. But had this happen in the summertime and we lost power for an extended amount of time, then we would have lost everything. And there's not a lot that I could have done. Potentially, I guess I could set up a generator. I don't even know if that's legal. So no, I don't think my building would let me put a generator in my space to power just our stuff, because all the power is centrally located. But from a business ownership standpoint, I think you just need to have the supplies at your office as well, in case something happens and maybe you can't make it home. So you need to have food and water at your office as well, just in case. So we've got plenty of water at our Diamond facilities in case, for whatever reason, we have been in a tornado here where a tornado did hit this building. Luckily, everything was okay. But let's say we had damage to where we couldn't get out of the building, right? And we're stuck in a high rise for a week. We have food and water here. I don't know if we have enough food for a week. I need to bring some of my astronaut food to my office. So that's a good idea, just in case. But those are the kind of things where you have to understand your exit points as well when you're in an office setting. How do you get out of the building safely? Because that did happen. Our elevators went down, so we had to know where the stairs were, where the exit points were. So you want to review that before something catastrophic happens. And I think one more point I want to bring up, Penny, is for at least the house, you want to review your home insurance coverage before a disaster, because a lot of people don't have flood insurance. And it's something that even if you don't live in a flood zone, you still should have flood insurance. It's incredibly inexpensive. It's a couple $100 in most instances for an entire annual policy. And it covers you in case your pipes burst in your house, any type of water damage. If you don't have flood insurance, you can actually have catastrophic damage that happened in Texas and it's not covered. because you didn't have flood insurance. It doesn't have to be from a hurricane or storm water. It can be from any source of water. So I highly recommend flood insurance. And I have earthquake insurance. Earthquakes are exceedingly rare in Texas. We do have fracking, which has caused some weird things with oil drilling and shale drilling. But we've never had an earthquake, to my knowledge, in Dallas over a 3.2 on the Richter scale in the recent history. But I have earthquake insurance. It's inexpensive because we're not in an earthquake hot zone, but just in case something happens. And with the way our climate is changing and these just bizarre, extremely abnormal extremes of temperature changes and things, I think people should get all the insurance coverage they can, even if you live in a climate that you never would imagine, like Texas, a temperature below zero.
It must have been nice for children to see snow for the first time, but not being prepared is just,
Yeah, snow is great when you have power and water. Snow is not great when you don't have power and water.
So for people that are watching this and they're deciding to be a prepared person moving forward, and they've got their notebook out, what would you say comes to mind as a list of the top things that you should have to have a disaster supply home kit?
So you need a first aid kit. You need something with Band-Aids and something to clean wounds so that if someone is injured, you can take care of it quickly. You need your dry, dehydrated food. You need water. You're going to need the things that I have in my supply kit. I have a compass, just in case I have to go out to the wilderness and figure out and navigate. I've got a little fire starter.
Your phone
don't
might
laugh
not
at me,
work.
Penny.
Maps won't be
You never
working.
know.
You're prepared.
You never know. I've got duct tape. Again, my wife made fun of that, but you know what? That came in handy when we didn't have any water because I duct taped some gallon jugs that were leaking. And I was like, see, my duct tape is coming in handy. You need something to start a fire with in case you don't have any way to cook anything. Most people have some sort of pots and pans at home, but if your gas line goes out or your electric line goes out, then you have nothing to cook something with, to boil water. I've got chlorine and iodine tablets to sterilize water if your water supply is compromised. So those are other things that I have in the kit. And then I've got a go bag. So I've got a duffel bag with all this stuff in there so that if it's a critical junction and we've got something crazy happening, our house is surrounded by zombies and we've got to get out of there. We got a go bag, we put it in the car and we're gone.
I'm laughing, but it is so impressive to be that prepared, literally. And I think you watched 5 too many movies.
Hey, that's really why good. Before the pandemic hit, we actually had everything that we needed. We've got an ample supply of everything that we need. And I think it's even more critical when you have children because, as an adult, we can go without, but you never want to see your children go without food or go without essential items, water. I mean, that would be heartbreaking if I didn't have enough water for my son and whatnot. So yes, we've joked a lot, but at the end of the day, this is a really important topic. And with all the things going on in the world with, pandemics and Arctic blasts that are hitting tropical areas, earthquakes and hurricanes and tornadoes devastating our globe, it's an important topic that you definitely want to have more supplies than you need.
Yeah. If you're prepared to fail if you fail to prepare.
Mine is Pinckney's 5 Ps. Prior preparation prevents poor performance. And that is applicable across the board.
I think that's going to be a meme that will go viral. As usual, is there anything that you would like to add, or is there anything that we haven't touched on that you think is important for people to know during just being mindful, or even just expecting not even the worst, but the odd snow in Texas, for instance?
Yeah, no, I think we hit everything. I think we hit everything, and the take-home points are prepare for the worst and pray for the best. At the end of the day, if you never need any of the supplies that you bought, that's great. That's a great thing. If I never have to open up my astronaut food, I will not be upset. But you're gonna want to have it if you need it.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, thank you so much. I think this is going to be such a timely message. And I think a lot of people who can, struggle with change and get certain anxieties around natural disasters, I think this will offer a lot of relief. So thank you so much, and look forward to speaking to you again soon.
You're very welcome. Thanks, Penny. Have a good day.
You too. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.